Guys, deluded, I'm back again. Now it's the first week of the World Cup. It's the first game of group stage fixtures, so we can't draw too many conclusions, people. But do you remember in the build up to the World Cup, I released a video and I said, everybody, if they don't look poor, everybody looks kind of booky or dodgy going into the World Cup. So how do we pick a clear candidate? Like we saw problems with Germany not being able to win friendlies, question marks over France, question marks over just Spanish, question marks over everybody in it. So how did you decipher? If it's ability, yeah, you could pick a clear winner. But for me and personally, against the backdrop of being like, for instance, Germany, world champions, being efficient, clear way of playing, manager signed a new deal, it looks like there's a lot of stability and they're world champions with world-class players. But beneath the hood of that, you could see media pressure, players being booed. It looked like tactics needed a bit more of tweaking just to bring freshness into the game. And a lot of that could claim to be backed up because they lost their first group stage game against Mexico. Again, we can't draw conclusions, people, because remember 2010, not Mexico, sorry, Spain lost their first group stage game, and we all remember how that turned out for them. They won it, so we can't draw too many conclusions. But just to follow on from that, do you guys now see where I was getting at? Because if we look at firstly Uruguay, people's dark horses, it's Uruguay. They've got Suarez, Cavani, our boy Torreira, allegedly, so they've got to be respected and rated. But they played very negative. Yes, on one hand, they won the game, and at the end of the day, it's cup football. It's a World Cup. It don't matter how you play. Similar to how Italians typically move with, and I rate. It don't matter how you play. The results in it. Obviously, they got the result at the end. At the end of it, when Jimenez won the header, but it's way too negative. Bentancur, very excellent technical ability, and when he decided to burst through the middle, you saw a madness. But too often than not, the midfielders, centre mids especially, negative passes, backwards. Everybody backwards. Cavani and Suarez are two of the most marked men at club level, so international level, of course they are. There's only two of them. No matter how good you are, even Messi saw, you're going to be heavily outnumbered and marked. Because of the patient build-up, they're now easy. The opponents are now easy. It's easier for the opponents to mark them and stuff. So if there's people marking them, and because you're playing backwards, you're allowing the opposition to remain intact positionally. There's simply too many bodies for Suarez and Cavani to be effective, especially when you're not giving them any service. So credit to Uruguay for winning the game, because Brazil played better than them and they walked away with a draw. But credit to Uruguay. So that's my thing on Uruguay. France, excellent individuals, wonderful individuals, whether it's young or old, excellent individuals. They obviously won against Australia, but for me, there was no tempo in the game, considering that they've got some excellent options, whether they go 4-4-2 with Giroud and Griezmann, or 4-3-3 like you saw, or 4-2-3-1, depending on how you look at it. It looked like three up front for me, for France anyways. You saw Dembele, Mbappe and Griezmann switching positions and things, and it was wonderful. France played some wonderful stuff, but too often than not, there wasn't enough pressing from the team, enough emphasis on pressing. Like I told you guys in this very video I'm referring to, they let in some silly goals, and they let in a silly goal via Umtiti switching off for the penalty. The pressing from the front, specifically the attackers starting, there weren't enough pressing. Even I think Kante alluded to that in his post-game comments. So there's that. I just feel there was no real game plan, no real fluidity in their play and things like that. So that's my problem with France. And for me, the tempo, the concentration, and the pressing is the main disappointments I saw from France. But they're wonderful ballers. Argentina probably got a madness, did he? Clearly too heavily Messi reliant. Obviously Sergio scored, and I do think Di Maria could have played better. Too reliant on Messi, in my humble opinion. Defense, to be nice, defense is a calamity. You saw what Willy Caballero and all of them guys were doing. It's a calamity. But way too reliant on Messi. Messi probably guilty in their game of trying a bit too hard towards the end, trying to force the issue. He's heavily marked. You saw it. You saw him basically having to go to a centre mid, and at times maybe even pull out wide, because again, all of these players, these national teams are going to heavily mark them, and quite rightly so. What do you expect? So Argentina's a bit mad. Portugal, it remains to be seen, but they gave themselves a good account of themselves against Spain. Good defending, in my opinion, defensively, apart from Pepe and Fonte for one of the goals. They played with no fear and stuff like that. So based on that game, Portugal have a lot of question marks, but you've got to rate them. out of everybody, Spain's probably the most faultless, man, considering the manager nonsense, excluding it. Obviously, they didn't win, but the zip in their play, the way they looked to play, the way everybody was on a different wavelength. You saw Iniesta, you saw Risco, you even saw Busquets, you saw Ramos coming up. Like, Spain looked serious. I'm not going to lie. Out of everybody, Spain, again, this could change if Spain were to lose to in their next game and someone else wins, but Spain looked serious. Out of all of them, Spain looked the clear ones for me. Obviously, Germany, for me, it looked like players are playing with several things on their head in regards to they feel like they're going to be scrutinised for every mistake or every good thing they do. It looks like a lot of the media pressure. Again, I'm not German, so I don't know for their TV coverage, but it looks like they're playing with a lot of pressure, and it's leading to them playing with a handbrake. They looked lethargic. For me, Germany looked like they were out of ideas. They looked like a lot of players, like Khedira, like the games passed them by. Main thing, it just looked like no one they had ideas. Like, it looked like Arsenal in the sense that wonderfully great technicians. If it doesn't work on one side, you switch it to the other. But it just wasn't working. Like, the occasional ball over the top was breeding success, but there wasn't enough. Like, it just looked like players are not playing with freedom. They're second guessing themselves. Again, it could change next with their next fixture, but that's just what I saw against Mexico. And obviously, you see all my review about Mexico, how I do believe they were a bit naive in regards to Mexico. But yeah, and Brazil, yeah, similar to France. You saw the attacking players, wonderful little great pieces of play. You actually saw Brazil actually decent defensively and in regards to pressing without the ball. But they weren't killers. The 20 and 30 minute mark, that 10-minute stage, Brazil could have killed off the game. They didn't kill it off. And so what happens? They didn't walk away with 3 points. They dropped 2 and only walk away with 1 point. So this is the difference. Enjoying themselves too much. Neymar and Marcelo, excellent going forward, but they leave a lot of space down the left-hand side, the opponent's right, which could come back to haunt them against bigger teams. I do feel the midfield options might need to be revamped because I do feel it was a bit too open for Brazil, for Brazil, in my opinion, especially towards the end when Switzerland had a goal. But yeah, man, for me, nobody, based on that first round of fixtures, nobody's, apart from Spain, nobody's looking convincing, like, in the sense that, yeah, they all look good and there's positives and negatives to pick at their play, but only Spain looked like a class above the others, like they're serious. And considering there was a lot of nonsense about the management things and Ramos and PK always going back and forth, you'd be surprised. I've got nothing more to say on that front, man. So guys, deluded, get in the comments, subscribe and do the rest. I'm out.